All right, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to start looking at the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is messy. It's extremely messy. Okay, it's tough. Okay, not going to lie, sugarcoat it to you, anything like that. It's not bad if you take it step by step, though. So what we have here is the quadratic formula. It's another way to tell me where are my x-intercepts. So when I think about my, let's choose a color or pen. I think about a parabola. This quadratic formula will tell me where this point is and where this point is. So now, this is the point. If I were you guys, I would pause the video and write down this formula. Write it down someplace so you have it. You're going to do 10 problems over the next 2 days with this formula. Okay, now that you have the formula wrote down, let's talk about it. The quadratic formula is based off of this right here, our standard equation, our coefficients. So my a value is always that number in front of the x squared. My b value is always that number in front of the x. My c value is always the number by itself. They can be positive, they can be negative. But now, when I plug them into the quadratic formula, it goes negative b. So you take that b value and you change the sign of that. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This is going to become a multi-step problem. I have my calculator out, so this video will take a little bit longer because we got to work this stuff out. So now, here we go. We've got this quadratic equation. I know that a is 2, b is negative 5, c is 3. You're going to see me write this down a lot today. And then I would actually recommend, if I were you guys, to write down that a, the b, the c, just so you guys get comfortable with it. So now, when I start to plug this into my equation, remember it goes negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that negative b is going to become a 5 plus or minus negative 5. I've got to put that in parentheses, otherwise that'll mess it up. Minus 4 times 2 times 3 all over 2 times 2. Okay. So now we're just going to start to simplify it some. 5 plus or minus. We know that negative 5 squared is 25. 4 times 2 times 3 is 24 all over 4. I'm going to come up here. So that gives me 5 plus or minus 25 minus 24 is 1 all over 4. Now that plus or minus, I'm going to break this down into two problems. So I have 5 plus over 4, and I have 5 minus over 4. I know that square root of 1 is just 1. So 5 plus 1 is 6 over 4. 5 minus 1 is 4 over 4. Simplify this as 3 over 2. This is just 2. So my two solutions for this problem are 3 over 2 and 2. We're going to do the same thing. Well, here my a value is 1, b value is negative 6, c value is 5. So when I start to run my equation, I got negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that gives me 6 plus or minus negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5 all over 2 times 1. So that's 6 plus or minus 36 minus 20 all over 2. I'm not going to have room down there. That's okay. Come back up here. 6 plus or minus, that's 16 all over 2. So that's 6 plus 4 over 2. 6 minus 4 over 2. So that gives me 10 over 2. 2 over 2. 5, 1. So my two solutions there are 1 and 5. Open this. Oh, I know what happened here. So I make the smartboard documents on my computer and I send them to my iPad because I can type. There's supposed to be a 1/2 here. 1/2 there. Okay, so I know my A value, 1/2, B is 1, C is negative 10. So now I can just start to plug it in. So I get negative 1 plus or minus 1 squared minus 4 times 1/2 times negative 10 all over 2 times 1/2. So that gives me negative 1 plus or minus 1. That's going to become plus 20 all over 1. So it's negative 1 plus or minus square root of 21 over 1. And I don't even need this over 1 because when I divide by 1, I'm left with the same thing. So now this is where it gets a little tricky. I need to break this up into two problems. I got negative 1 plus square root of 21 and negative 1 minus square root of 21. That's a bad 21. Wow, fully. So now on my calculator, I'm going to take the square root of 21. I get 4.6. So now I can just simplify. Negative 1 plus 4.6, 3.6. Negative 1 minus 4.6 is negative 5.6. Good. Good, just a couple more. Again, A is negative 3, B is 2, C is 7. So I'm going to start with negative 2 plus or minus B squared, so 2 squared minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times A. So I get negative 2 plus or minus 4, and then 4 times 3 times 7. It says plus, because the two negatives, plus 84, all over negative 6. So I get negative 2 plus or minus square root of 84 over negative 6. Square root of 84 is 9.2. I don't know why I put the square root there. So I'm just going to break this down. Negative 2 plus 9.2 over negative 6. Negative 2 minus 9.2 over negative 6. That gives me 7.2 over negative 6. Negative 11.2 over negative 6. When I divide these out, I get negative 1.2 and that's a positive 1.86. Repeating, could say 1.9. Now somebody might ask, hey Foley, would it be okay if I switch this around? Could I do the minus in front, the plus in the back? Yeah, totally legit. Okay, we got one more. Ugh. Here's our issue. It's not equal to 0. So I got to make it equal to 0 by adding 1 right away. So then I know A is 4, B is negative 4, C is 1. So I can just start to plug these in. 4 plus or minus negative 4 squared minus 4 times 4 times 1. Ooh, I'm already seeing something. 2 times A. So I get 4 plus or minus square root of 16 minus 16 all over 8. So 4 plus or minus, I'll move it to the other side. Plus or minus, that's the square root of 0 all over 8. Square root of 0 is just 0. And now, when I think about this, what is 4 plus 0? That's just 4. 4 minus 0 is just 4. So I only have to do 1 here. This gives me 1/2. Again, this comes back to the other day when we talked about my 3 cases. I know that my graph will either have 2 zeros, 1 0, or no 0. It's going to happen one of those. All right, quadratic equation. Take your time. Take lots of time. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have a Google form. You're going to have 5 problems to work on. Everything there is rounded, unless it's a whole number, perfect whole number. Everything is rounded to, I believe it's 1 decimal place. Okay, guys, have